got it replaced with a fairly little thinner piece of shim stock there, right in the center. And I tighten the two outside bolts. It's very, very firm. I think that's going to work good. I'll glue that shim to the back of that. I don't like the fact that I got to tighten two bolts to clamp the tailstock, but I believe it'll be all right. Okay, I got these all tapped. Fair amount of drilling and tapping there. Every hole is tapped. This one is my intersecting hole. That's a brass tip set screw that will be riding against the bottom of the bed and attached right there. And this is a nylon tip set screw, so I can snug this down. It'll stop this from moving, but unless I want it to turn. It's got some resistance there. Now all I got to do is bolt these to the bottom of there and this side here. So that means I got to take these off and drill some clearance holes there and put a couple of 1/4-20 bolts in there and hold them on. There we go. Now I'm going to put some Teflon tape underneath the edge of that. And then I'll adjust the set screws so they hold firmly to the bed. Or not firmly, but it'll be a slip fit. And these will be my lockdown bolts I may come up with something different eventually, but this is what I'm going to use to lock down the... And this will also be welded here. I got it bolted on right now just to hold a position, but it'll be welded on. Hopefully it doesn't move much when I weld it. Hey, I'm getting excited. This looks like it's coming out pretty good. I'm supposed to get that piece of tubing today. Ordered it on eBay. It's a drawn over mandrel tubing, 1 1/4 exactly on the inside, and I'm going to build a 1 1/4 with a taper on it that'll hold my chucks. Shear cutting. Well, I didn't have any 1 1/4 shafting for my tailstock, so I took the 1 1/2 down to 1 1/4. Now I'm ready to drill the threaded end of the tailstock, which is, I don't know if you can see it or not, right there. Like a reduced area, and then I'll go larger, and then I'll put a Morris taper on this end. If you don't understand it, it'll be clear when I start putting it together. This is going to be let's see, 1/2-20 left-hand thread. Well, I'm fairly deep here. I've intersected with the hole that I'm going to thread. I want about that many threads. 3/4 inch. More than that's unnecessary, a lot of extra friction. And I'm not sure exactly where I'm at. I can't remember how much of it's in the chuck. but oh, it's hot. Got about 5 inches right there. Yeah, I need to go deeper. Do what you got to do. Not much in that chuck. Kind of hard on the chuck doing that, but I've got a good sized pilot hole, so we should be able to do that. Okay. Boy, it's got some heat going there. I get a good idea how much. Pretty hard to see in there. I can see it from this end. Looks like I got about that many threads. That won't be too bad. I might end up cutting a little bit of that off. But not much. I'll thread that end and I'll cut a Morris taper on this end. It'll work like the tailstock on my lathe here. Let me show you. This is left-hand thread. You turn it clockwise and it's moving the spindle out. I'm at the end of the threads there. There's your left-hand threads. This I'll probably build something like this for the locking mechanism too. It's like a wedge nut goes down on the side of it. What I wanted to show you was that when you bring it back, the threaded rod on this handle ejects the chuck. It hits right there and knocks the chuck out. So that's what I want to accomplish on mine. I want to do the same thing. Well, this is a first for me. I've never reamed a Morris taper. I do know it'll need a lot of oil. This is like the roughing, or I don't know what you call it. And this is for finishing it. This for removing the bulk of the metal. Working pretty good. Okay, I got a piece of machine tubing in my vise. I'm milling a slot in it, and I'll show you in a minute what that's for. I'm just about through it. Well, there's the slot I cut. 3/16 by about 1 1/8 inches. Well, it's a good sharp carbide mill, brand new mill. Did a good job. I don't even have burrs on the inside. That's my tailstock adjustment, and this is going to be a clamp. So what I got here is a couple of pieces of half-inch thick by 1 inch square, and I clamped it in the vise on my mill and just milled radius in that. And I put 2 washers in there, and it straddles that gap. I'm going to clamp it in there. Yep, let's get rid of that. Clamp it in there like that. And then weld it here in here. And then on this side, after I get that welded, I'm going to mill a slot across this. So that section of the tubing will clamp together right there. And that'll be my tailstock clamp. So it'll be halfway cut in two right here. I may do that with a saw. I don't know, a mill would look nicer, but a saw would probably work every bit as well. A bandsaw, just cut in right there and there. That way this section of the tubing clamps together. Okay, this tailstock's getting kind of complicated. Right here, I've got a 3/16 slot cut in there. There'll be a hole drilled here and a pin driven in here on the bottom side for that to mesh with. That'll stop this from rotating. This slot on the top is for a piece of 1/4-inch ruler. It'll show me, it'll be an indicator of how far my drilling depth in the lathe. That's what I had a friend of mine weld that. I just got a 110 MIG welder, and I needed good penetration there, and I had him weld that. There was a slot milled right in there. You probably remember that. And then I took a bandsaw and cut 2 slots there. So this section clamps down, holds the tailstock from moving. Next step, there's a half 20 thread there, left hand thread, and I've got to thread a cap on here for my tailstock adjustment to go through, and well, kind of like this. So it's got a cap on there. That cap screws on, and hand wheel shaft rather goes through that, and the hand wheel connects on it. So I've got to thread the inside of this and thread a piece to go in here. Okay, I've got this turned down here. This is going to be my end cap. I got to cut threads right there. I've got an undercut right here. This is a 1 5/16 threads. But I'm going to make it 20 threads per inch, the same as this. And I'll cut 20 threads per inch in here. That'll be one setup on my lathe, the 20 threads per inch. I haven't got a quick change tool, I mean a quick change gearbox on this. So I've got to change these change gears. And they're a pain in the neck. Always takes me a little while to figure out which gears go where. So that's what I'm going to do next. I maybe should have cut that undercut a little bit wider, but we're going to try one pass. See, I got to stop the feed right at that groove and then pull out. We're going to see how it does. Yeah, it's not too bad. Back it out. Go back to 0 on my cross slide. Tighten the compound a few thousandths. Wait for the mark to come around. Got my next pass. Same thing over and over. Back out the cross slide, go back to 0 again. About 5 more thousandths on my compound. Engage. Wait for the mark. Engage. Cutting a little more material now. Probably should have chamfered the end of that. I may shorten that anyway. I don't want to limit the travel of my tailstock. I think I'm going to live with that. Okay, I cut that down to about a 1/4 inch of threads left. I really made those threads too long to begin with. I have to take a wire brush to the edge of those threads to clean them up, or a file. Yeah, I went a little bit too far, but that's going to work good. I'm tickled with that. Good deal. Well, the reason I'm hand feeding this is because I've got my change gears set up for 20 threads per inch, and that's what I'll be cutting again. About 4 thousandths more. Cutting the left-hand threads for this tailstock spindle. Five thousandths more. Probably put a brass thrust washer in there. Left-hand thread. Well, that's hard to get used to. Of course, this slot will have a pin right here inside. I'll drill through the top and pin on the bottom to stop this from rotating, and that will be my tailstock adjustment right there, which I can't turn because I got oil all over my hands. It's coming together. Okay, I got carried away and I did quite a bit off camera. Got the tailstock pretty much done. Show you what I did. Vice grip will be changed, obviously, with a hand crank. Here's the piece that I was turning on the lathe. Left hand thread here. That's just a 1/2 inch clearance there, and it goes inside that. I cut the right hand threads inside this tailstock, and right here it's just a shelf for that to hit on. Put a brass thrust washer in there. I may put a ball bearing thrust washer in there, I don't know. This is sized so that when you screw it in, it's left hand thread. You screw it in, well, that left hand thread gets me every time. When it's all the way in, it pushes the taper out, which is what I wanted, because I get stuck in there. And now it's tight. So, right there lines up with a pin I put in here. And what I did there is I took a 3/16 drill. I didn't have any hardened pins. Took a 3/16 drill, cut it off, bored a hole through there, reamed it with a 3/16 ream so it was a good fit, and then put the pin in there and then welded the end of it. I got the tailstock locked down. Pin lines up right there with the bottom. That brass washer is going to go from the back side. Just like that. Washer goes there. Probably Loctite that. I may even put a pin, like a hole right there where I can stick a pin in it for leverage. Of course, this is temporary. Kind of a slow tailstock. That's 20 threads per inch. The reason it's left-hand threads so that clockwise moves it in toward the chuck. That's got a pretty good travel. Okay, I'm going to put the rule on here. I want to make 0 right where this ejects, and that's where it's ejecting, right there. Yep. Make a mark right here. That's my 0 point. Yeah, right there is 0. Took out the 1 on the 10. Scratched out the 1 on the 12, 13, 14. I got to scratch that one out. So, Probably need to find something to push that in there with. There we go. It's not going anywhere. I can get it back out if it gets damaged. Okay, I'm going to take this apart and put some threads on the end of this so I can screw a handle on it, and I also got to cut a keyway in there. Yeah, it looks pretty straight. I'm just using it to hold that so I can cut some threads on there. I'm going to do it with a die, 1/2-inch die. Okay, it's a pretty handy device right here. It's got a die in here, and I can use my lathe to thread this. It's a little bit scary, especially on a 1/2 inch, but I think it'll work. There we go. Look at that, nice threads. Hopefully nice straight threads. Got a little wobble there, but it'll be pretty good. I think that's enough. That's all the threads I need to hold my crank on there. Yep, you got it. That's a router bit. It's just a section of pipe. I'm going to weld a T in, or a spoke in it, and that'll be my hand crank. Okay, I removed my temporary crank for my cross slide. Worked pretty good though. I'm going to assume that hole is pretty close to centered. Hope it is. Normally I would weld the spoke in, chuck that back in the lathe and drill the hole. But just so I don't waste the piece of steel here that I've already got, I'm going to try to get this on center, and I'll get pretty close. Yeah, I got a snug fit, which is what I wanted. That way it'll stay put when I'm welding it. Okay.